Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Buddy Guru channel. So today I'm here and I'm doing a deck profile on my friend's Shadow Shade deck with support from, can't really say it's the latest because there's a new one coming up next set, the deity set for Buddyfight, but this set is SBT01A Buddy Lineage. It's got some support in that set, and the deck I'm showing today is Magic World Shadow Shades. So Shadow Shades has topped quite a bit recently, and also in the past it has also been a force to reckon with. It's really powerful right now. It can tank your opponent out just like basically it's an Authora in Magic World. So with that, let's get right on with the deck profile. Of course, the buddy we run is Silhouette Joe Illusion. So first up, of course, we run 4 copies of the buddy Silhouette Joe Illusion. Silhouette Joe Illusion's cost is pay 2 gauge, put a spell from your drop zone into his soul. Abilities of him cannot be nullified, and you cannot take damage by effects. This is really powerful because your opponent has to break through him, and usually he's a really big wall with all the spells you have in Magic World. Your opponent has to try to beat down him before he can even touch your life points. The only few ways to really kill it is by rushing, or if you manage to stall your if you're playing Shadow Shades versus Shadow Shades, both of you all manage to stall each other out. So yeah, 4 copies of Silhouette Joe Illusion, very excellent card. He also has a second ability, start of each player's attack phase, 1 card from the drop zone goes into his soul, and you can deal damage. There is a way to combo his second effect with a new spell that came out in the same set, Buddy Lineage, and I'll get right on to that later. So 4 copies of Silhouette Joe Illusion. Next up, 4 copies of another Silhouette, 4 copies of Silhouette Oliver. His effect, you can just put him Force Gem straight into a Shadow Shade. When the Shadow Shade monster with him in the soul attacks, it gets plus 3k power and penetrate, which means this card will be swinging for most of the time 12 to 21k power with penetrate. And during your opponent's turn, when it's put from the soul into the drop zone, you can charge, gain 1 life, and draw 1 card. Very good card for Shadow Shades, because most of the time when you try to beat down your center, you can trigger Oliver to gain even more hand advantage. So yeah, 4 copies of Silhouette Oliver. Next up, 4 copies of our fetcher, Silhouette Simba. So there is another combo. This is a really combo based deck that includes Silhouette Simba, which I will again get to later. So his effect, Rebellion of the Shadow Life, we discard him from the hand and add a Shadow Shade monster from your drop zone into your hand. So we play 3 different types of Shadow Shades. Of course, Simba, Oliver, and Joe are the only Shadow Shade monsters you play. So basically, you most of the time, if you have Joe in the hand, you discard Simba to take back Oliver. If you have Oliver in your hand, you discard Simba to take back Joe. So yeah, 4 copies of Simba. Very strong card. Increases the consistency of this Shadow Shade deck. Must run 4. Next up, some tech cards to increase our consistency. 2 copies of Center of the World Marisu. Her effect costs pay 2 gauge. When it enters, search for any spell, add it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Most of the time I try to add the new spell, Illusion the Shade in the recent set, or any defense spell in general. So yeah, 2 copies. It's also used, you get the spell out and use it. Sometimes you can use it, get like a nice one out, and use it for fodder for Silhouette Joe, because Joe requires a spell to be in the drop zone in order to pay its cost. So yeah, 2 copies of Marisu. Next up, the last monster we play, 1 copy of Undying Wise King Countdown. So when another monster would be destroyed, put it from the field in the drop zone. If you do, the monster remains on the field. And Omnilord, so you can play 1 copy of him in any flag besides Legend World. Legend World, you can play 4 copies. He also has effect to call himself from the drop zone at the beginning of each player's attack phase. So yeah, 1 copy because we can only run 1. It's also really good for tanking out our Joe. So next up, the spells. We run a lot of spells. This is Magic World. 4 copies of Illusion the Shade. So it's a set card, and it's a new Shadow Shade card released in Buddy Lineage. All souls in Shadow Shade on the field cannot be dropped by your opponent's card effects, which is great, which means the pesky little Loki, the Urgeist, will not be able to drop any of your Shadow Shades soul. They first have to destroy Illusion the Shades. Even if they destroy we have ways to make it remain on the field. Basically, you need to return it to your hand, then you can Loki the Joe to remove all its soul, and then right after that, you can then beat down Joe. Joe also surprisingly doesn't have a lifelink, which I know Magic World cards usually don't have lifelink, but I'm guessing with such a crazy effect, he should have at least some pain factor when he's gone from the field. So 4 copies of Illusion the Shade. Its effect is also you can, at the start of your attack phase, choose a Shadow Shade monster on the field. Usually it's Joe. Put the top card of the deck into the soul of him, and then put 1 card from the soul back to the hand. Basically, you can put Joe, put any spell into Joe, then put the top card of the deck into the soul. Then you can fetch 1 card back from the soul. Any card. Doesn't have to be the card that you put into the soul. That's why this card is a very, very strong card. So yep, 4 copies of him. Definitely want to run 4 in order to improve the the filtering of the deck. Okay, its draw power is also really strong in this deck. So yeah, 4 copies. If you didn't know already, this is a stall deck. It's used to stall out into a new flag called Lost World. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of it. It's a really, really strong deck to stall into. So next up, 2 copies of Great Spell Circle of Deity Dragon. The first is a set. The first effect is irrelevant because we are not running a Deity Dragon tribe deck. But the second effect is the one we want to use. At the start of your opponent's turn, choose a spell in your drop zone. You may drop a hand card. If you do, put the chosen card into your hand. Very good for regaining your hand advantage. You can add back any spell you want from the drop zone back to your hand. So you run 2 copies because he is able to. He can be. You can only set 1 on the field. Plus, Silhouette Joe can always retrieve it from the soul if you have to. So yeah, 2 copies of Great Spell Circle of Deity Dragon. Next up, this is where the draw power increases tenfold. 4 copies of Nice One. Easily one of the best draw 2 spells. Pay 1 gauge and draw 2 with no condition. It's once per turn. Okay, that's the only setback, but it has no conditions you need to activate. So you can cast it even if you don't have anything on the field. So yeah, 4 copies. It's a must run 4. Next up, we run 3 copies of another spell, Illusion the Shade. We run 3 copies of the Shade. So I like to say it like that because it's cool. You may only cast it if you have a Shadow Shade on the field, charge and draw, then put it into the soul of a Shadow Shade. Very easy to loop this card with Shadow Shades because he automatically goes into a Shadow Shade soul. So if you put it into Joe's soul, you can immediately use Illusion the Shade to take the shade back from the soul. So 3 copies because he's retrievable, and also because he's a good draw spell. We only run 3 because it's once per turn. So yeah, 3 copies of the Shade. Next up, another very strong Magic World spell. It's a mini Durable Rack, 3 copies of Subherot's Lectures. You may only cast it if you have cast a spell during this turn, but we are running Magic World, so spells, casting a spell is no issue. Look at the top 2, add 1 from among them into your hand, and the rest into the gauge. So it's a really strong spell to filter out your hand and to charge gauge in the same time. It's basically, it's a +1 to hand and 1 to, you get another free gauge as well. That's why he's so strong. Plus, he has no cost. The only condition is you must cast a spell, which isn't really hard to pull off in Magic World. So 3 copies because it's only once per turn. And also because it's loopable. Like, every other spell and monster in this deck is loopable as well. But usually we only loop the spells because it's Magic World. We only gain advantage from the spells. Next up, another tap card, 4 copies of Little Light. This is the combo I was telling you. So the effect is you can put 1 monster from your deck into your gauge or drop zone, shuffle your deck, and you gain 1 life. So basically, because we run our Lion, Simba, you can drop any card from the deck into the drop zone. Let's say we drop a Joe from the effect, or we charge a Joe away. We somehow get into the drop zone. We can always discard Simba to fetch back the Joe back into our hands. This is why we run 4 copies of Little Light in order to improve our consistency in this deck. Because we never ever want to. We always want to call Joe. We never ever want to not call Joe. So yeah, 4 copies of Little Light. Plus loyalty is not really a big pain in this deck because we generally don't call more than 3 monsters. Usually on turn 1 is the only turn we call more than 3, or 3 at most. A Mary Sue, a Countdown, and a Silhouette Joe if it's your lucky day. So yeah, we run 4 copies of Little Light. Next up, the defensive spells. We run a lot of defensive spells because we want to stall into the Lost World and not get our Joe destroyed. At the same time, 2 copies of Solomon's Wall. Put a spell from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, and you can pay 1 gauge. Counter, choose and use one of the following 2. For this turn, the next damage dealt to you is reduced to 0. Or you can rest a monster on your opponent's field. It's a mini and cheaper version of a spell that we are going to introduce. I'm pretty sure you guys know what is it. It's a very good spell to filter out your spells back into your deck. For example, if your drop zone has 4 nice ones, you want to send 1 back to the deck just to gain one of the very strong effects from this card. Solomon's Wall is a great card to play. At first, I was thinking of running the DT Dragon Tribe negate spell until I realized it must have a DT Dragon Tribe on the field. So I changed it out for Solomon's Wall. So yep, 2 copies of Solomon's Wall. Very strong. Next up, 2 copies of Malicious Selector. So cast cost is pay 1 gauge, choose and use one of the following 2, then put it into a Shadow Shade on your field. So that's another great point, another great start to this card. You can put it straight into a Shadow Shade, which increases the soul advantage of your Shadow Shade. Either destroy a size 1 or less monster on your opponent's field, or give your Shadow Shade plus 3k power, defense, and counter attack. Both of which are very, very good effects. And we run 2 only because it is loopable once again. And we generally do not need to run so many copies of a negate spell because we usually have 1 or 2 already waiting to be used in our hands. So yeah, 2 copies of Malicious Selector. Next up, 2 copies of Warrior. So Warrior's condition is you have 3 or more spells in your drop zone. Again, not really hard to fulfill. Return a card from your opponent's field to their hand. Very, 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 very strong effect. Bounce any card from the opponent's field to hand. So in case you are fighting against a Leviathan deck, they have Leviathan on the field, they have tons of items on the field, but they do not have the anti-bouncer. So you just cast this, return their Leviathan, and everything on the field just goes straight into the drop zone. So yep, 2 copies of Warrior because it's a really, really strong card. Next up, 2 copies of the ultimate spell, 2 copies of Narcolepsy. So the cost is pay 3 gauge and discard a hand card. Rest all monsters and items on your opponent's field. Very good to shut down a lot of your opponent's cards. Basically shut down their turn unless they got re-standers. This card stops almost every card coming in its way. So yeah, 2 copies of Narcolepsy, only because like what I said, it's retrievable and you can get it with ease. 2 copies of Narcolepsy. Next up we run 2 copies of Infector. Yes, it's another plague spell. So basically we use the first effect because it's the only relevant one. Choose a card on the field, and for this turn, the chosen card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Imagine they want to destroy your set spell. Just cast this and your set spell cannot be touched. Cannot be destroyed. Then put it into a sort of an item, but we don't run any items because there's really no point in this deck. So yeah, the first effect is the relevant one, 2 copies of Infector, because we don't use it all the time, and again, it's loopable. Next up, last of the tech, it's another tech card we run. Last but not least, 1 copy of Never Say Never. It's the last Magic World card right now we run in this deck. So basically, we use the first effect to just charge 2 gauge. As simple as that. Nothing really special about it. Just charge 2. And if your hand has no cards, you just draw another 2. So usually we just use it to pump gauge in case we want to use cards like Narcolepsy the turn following that, or more strong cards like we want to be lost. We need 2 gauge and this card is perfect. So yeah, we cast it before the opponent's turn to charge 2 gauge. So yeah, 1 copy of Never Say Never. It's a tech card. You don't have to run it, but we run it just in case. You could never be too sure. Next up, 2 copies of Loyalty. Very strong spell. Next time, choose and use one of the following 3, pay 1 gauge. Next time damage will be dealt to you is reduced by 2. And you can remove a soul. Or, for this turn, your opponent cannot call more than 3 monsters. Very, very strong as well. Because if your opponent cannot call more than 3 monsters, they basically cannot, your opponent cannot call more than 3 monsters, they cannot, it may stop some decks in their tracks. Like for Dragot, they can no longer G-Evo, even by effects, because they cannot call any more monsters. So yeah, 2 copies of Loyalty because it's loopable, and because we don't use it for the first and second effect. The first effect is most of the time never relevant. The second effect is relevant in certain scenarios, and the third effect is really why we ran this card for. 2 copies of Loyalty. Last spell of the deck, 1 copy of Obstruct. We can only run 1. We may cast this during our opponent's turn, pay 1 line for this turn, and the next turn, each player cannot draw by their own card effects. Once you're in late game, Obstruct is really handy because your opponent cannot draw, and generally in late game, we don't have to draw as well. All we need is the Lost World in our hand, and the game will be going in our direction. So yeah, 1 copy of Obstruct because we can only run 1. And the last 2 cards of the deck, yes, they are both flags. 2 copies of the the Great Lost World. You cannot choose it as your initial flag. You have up to 2 of this in your deck. You may use Lost World cards, and then it gets the ability of the flag chosen by Be Lost. Be Lost, choose one of your flags and pay 2 gauge. If you do, put it on top of the chosen card. Remove your deck from the fight, shuffle your Lost deck, and put it into the fight. You may only use Be Lost once per fight. So Lost World is a really good really good deck to stall into, because once we stall, we left 1 card in the deck, 2 cards. Then just as our opponent is thinking we are gonna deck out, straight go in the Lost World, because it's at the end of the opponent's turn. We can go in the Lost World, get rid of the last remaining 2 cards, shuffle our Lost deck, come into play, and rush your opponent down with that deck. So we run 2 copies of Lost World because we can only run 2. And it's not hard to get Lost World out, because Silhouette Joe Illusion's effect allows you to put Lost World into your soul, and you can use the effect of Illusion the Shade to take Lost World back from the soul. So that's why Lost World isn't really hard to use. Get in this deck, isn't hard to filter out into your hand. So yeah, 2 copies of Lost World. And with that, that's it for my Shadow Shade deck profile. So I hope you guys like this video. If you do, be sure to like and subscribe, and comment down below what deck you might want to see next. I am planning on showcasing a Magic World, yes, another Magic World DD Dragon Tribe deck, which will be out. As of now, it will be out on Friday in SG. So yeah, Friday it'll be out, and I'll be building Magic World DG Dragon Tribe from that deck. So yeah, with that, I hope you guys liked the video. Comment down below what deck you might want to see, or whether you want to see a deck battle, what you might want to see next. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.